You water your tomatoes on a set schedule, every other day, no matter the weather, because it feels like the disciplined thing to do. Here's something most gardeners never realize. That exact habit, watering by the calendar instead of by what the plant actually needs, is very often the reason tomatoes end up splitting, rotting on the bottom, or looking pale and unhappy no matter how much effort you're putting in. And that's only one item on the list. There are 10 more coming after it, and once you line all 11 up side by side, you'll see they basically form a complete blueprint of everything quietly working against your tomato plants. Stay with me clear through to the end, because number 11 is the mistake nearly every gardener makes without ever catching it. When we get there, don't be surprised if it feels like this video was written with you specifically in mind. It was written with a version of me in mind too, back when I first started growing. Correct these 11 habits, and you'll be growing the healthiest, tastiest tomatoes of your life. No new tools required, no tearing up your garden, just 11 small adjustments to how you already water. And every single one of them is something you can start doing today, with whatever you've already got sitting in your shed. Let's dig in. Before we go any further, if you're finding this useful already, go ahead and subscribe. I share honest, practical garden advice like this every week. Nothing complicated, nothing salesy. And do me a favor, drop a comment letting me know what town or region you're gardening in. I love seeing the range of climates and backyards represented down there. Now, on to the mistakes. Mistake number 1, watering too often. Let's start with a habit most people fall into purely out of good intentions. Giving the plants a small amount of water daily, just to stay on top of things and show them a little attention. Totally understandable instinct. More watering feels like more care. But here's what's actually going on beneath the surface. When moisture is always sitting near the top of the soil, the roots have zero incentive to travel downward looking for it. Why stretch deep when everything they need is already sitting right there at the top? So the root system stays shallow and crowded near the surface. And soil that's kept constantly damp near the top also loses the air pockets roots depend on, since water fills in the spaces where oxygen would normally sit. The end result is a plant with a weak, underdeveloped root system that falls apart the moment a hot, dry stretch shows up, because it never built any reserves down deep to draw from. You'll often notice it first as yellowing on the lower leaves, along with a general sluggishness in the plant, even though you've been faithfully watering the whole time. The correction here is straightforward. Water less frequently, but water thoroughly when you do. Allow the top couple inches of soil to dry between sessions. Doing this pushes the roots to travel downward, building a stronger, more resilient plant in the process. It works a lot like building any kind of endurance. You don't get stronger by never being challenged. Give those roots a reason to search for water, and they'll grow into a system that can actually handle a dry week without falling apart. Mistake number 2. Not watering deep enough. This mistake pairs closely with the first. Many gardeners give their plants a fast pass with the hose or watering can, enough to darken the surface of the soil, and consider the job finished. It looks sufficient. The ground turns dark and wet, but a tomato plant's roots want to live somewhere between 12 and 18 inches underground. A brief surface watering never comes close to reaching that far down. So once again, the roots settle for staying shallow, since that's simply where all the available moisture lives. Once summer heat arrives, those shallow roots dry out in a hurry, causing the plant to drop blossoms it can no longer support, while any fruit that does form tends to stay undersized and weak. Here's a way to actually verify your watering depth. After watering, wait a short while, then push a trowel or a long screwdriver straight down into the ground. It should slide through easily while the soil underneath is wet, then stop firmly once it hits dry ground. Most people are stunned to discover their watering only reached an inch or 2 deep. You want it reaching at least 6 to 8 inches every single time. This little test takes about 10 seconds, and it's honestly one of the most eye-opening things you can do in your own garden. Once you see with your own eyes how shallow your watering has actually been going, you'll never look at a garden hosed the same way again. Mistake number 3, watering in the heat of the afternoon. This mistake usually happens without anyone planning it. You're simply out working in the yard during the hottest part of the day, so that's when the hose comes out. Doesn't seem like a problem on the surface. But with the sun beating down and temperatures climbing, a large share of that water evaporates straight off the top of the soil before it ever gets the chance to soak in. You're standing there working hard, and the plant barely sees the benefit. The correction is simple. Shift your watering to early morning before the day's heat has a chance to burn it off. Every drop goes further, and your plant actually receives what you're giving it. Mistake number 4, watering late in the evening. Here's a mistake that trips up plenty of thoughtful, well-meaning gardeners, because on its face, it looks like the considerate choice. Wait until after dinner, once temperatures have dropped and the sun is going down, then give the plants a good drink. I understand the appeal entirely. It's a pleasant time to be outside. It feels gentle on the plant, and it seems to sidestep that afternoon evaporation issue we just covered. But there's a hidden cost. Any water that lands on the foliage in the evening simply sits there overnight, since there's no sun left to dry it off and temperatures have dropped. A leaf that stays cool, damp, and dark through the night is precisely the environment fungal disease is looking for. That combination practically rolls out the welcome mat for blight and leaf spot to take hold. So the correction is the same one experienced growers have relied on for generations. Water in the morning. Give the plant its drink early, let sunlight handle drying off any splash during the day, and send the plant into nighttime nice and dry. Mistake number 5, splashing water on the leaves. This mistake often comes from a kind impulse as well. Plenty of people grab the hose and drench the entire plant from top to bottom, treating it like a refreshing little rain shower. Feels thoughtful, feels like real care, but a tomato plant absorbs water through its roots, not through its leaves, so soaking the foliage accomplishes nothing useful for the plant at all. It actually causes harm beyond that. When water strikes bare soil with any real force, it kicks tiny particles of dirt up onto the lower leaves. That soil frequently carries fungal spores left behind from the previous season, just waiting for a ride onto fresh leaf tissue. That splash-up effect is one of the most common ways diseases like early blight and leaf spot get their start in the first place. The correction is to aim low. Water directly at the base of the plant, right onto the soil, keeping the leaves as dry as you can manage. To make this effortless, a soaker hose or a simple drip line laid along your row will handle the job for you, delivering water straight to the roots without ever touching a leaf. Mistake number 6, letting the soil swing between bone dry and soaking wet. Now we've reached the mistake responsible for some genuine heartache, so pay close attention here. This is the pattern of soaking the garden heavily over the weekend, then letting it dry out completely all through the week until the next big watering. It's an easy trap to fall into, especially with a packed schedule, and it doesn't register as a mistake at all, since you're still technically watering regularly. Here's what's actually happening inside that developing fruit. Tomato plants rely on steady, consistent moisture to move calcium from the roots up into the growing fruit. When water supply lurches between drought and flood, that calcium delivery gets disrupted along the way. Without enough calcium reaching the fruit, the bottom develops that dark, sunken, leathery look. Most growers assume it's some kind of disease. In reality, it almost always traces back to uneven watering. I'll admit, I learned this lesson through painful experience. One season I had a full row of gorgeous, large tomatoes, and nearly every single one rotted through on the bottom. I was certain I was dealing with some soil-borne disease. I sprayed treatments, fussed endlessly, tried remedy after remedy I found online, and none of it made any difference. Turns out the only thing wrong was my habit of soaking everything heavily on Saturdays, then letting the ground go dry the rest of the week. The instant I switched to watering evenly, the problem vanished completely. I wish I had understood that sooner. Would have saved me a mountain of worry and a whole lot of wasted fruit. There's a second issue tied to this exact same mistake, and that's cracking. When a plant goes without water for a while and then receives a heavy soak all at once, the fruit expands faster than the skin can accommodate, so it splits open, usually forming rings near the top. Two distinct problems, one shared root cause. The correction is to keep your watering rhythm steady and consistent, roughly the same amount, roughly the same schedule, no swinging between drought and flood. Your plant would honestly rather have a slightly imperfect but consistent routine than a perfect routine that only shows up half the time. Mistake number 7, overwatering and drowning the roots. This next mistake runs almost opposite to the earlier ones, yet it does just as much damage. Some gardeners water heavily out of genuine worry about underwatering, operating under the belief that extra water can only help. Unfortunately, that isn't how it works. Soil that stays continuously saturated forces all the air out of the tiny spaces between soil particles. Roots depend on that air to generate the energy needed to actually draw water and nutrients up out of the ground. Cut off from oxygen, roots essentially begin to suffocate. Strange as it sounds, a plant can start rotting from below while sitting in more water than it could ever possibly use. It frequently shows up as wilting leaves, even with soaking wet soil, which throws a lot of gardeners off since it looks exactly like a thirst problem when it's actually the opposite. The correction costs nothing but a moment of your time. Before watering, always check first. Push a finger roughly 2 inches into the soil. If it still feels moist down there, hold off. If it comes out dry, then go ahead and give it a proper drink. This particular mistake fools more gardeners than almost anything else on this list, because a wilting, droopy tomato plant makes your gut scream for the hose. But drowning and thirst can look nearly identical from the outside, so trust the soil test over how the plant appears at a glance. Mistake number 8, skipping the mulch. This next mistake has nothing to do with the watering can itself. It's about what's missing from around your plants entirely. Plenty of gardeners leave the soil bare around the base of their tomatoes because it looks neat, and adding mulch simply feels like an extra chore nobody's got time for. But exposed soil bakes hard under direct sun and loses moisture rapidly, forcing you to water more often and intensifying those dry-to-wet swings we already discussed. On top of that, bare ground crusts over in the heat, giving rain or hose water a hard surface to bounce off of, launching soil and its hidden spores directly onto your lower leaves. The correction is refreshingly simple. Spread 2 to 4 inches of straw, shredded leaves, or dried grass clippings around each plant. Keep it pulled back a couple inches away from the stem itself so the stem doesn't stay perpetually damp and invite rot. This single step alone resolves a considerable chunk of everything on this list. If you take away only one habit from this entire video, honestly, let it be this one. Mulching is cheap, it's easy, and it works quietly in the background all season long without you having to think about it again. Mistake number 9, using the same watering routine the whole season. This mistake sneaks in purely through convenience. You settle on a routine early in the season and stick with the identical amount and schedule straight through to harvest time. It's simple, one less decision to make each day. But a tomato plant's actual needs shift considerably as it develops. A young transplant with a small, developing root system only requires light, frequent watering to help it settle in. Once flowering and fruit set begin, though, water demand climbs sharply, and this is precisely the stage where a dry spell inflicts the most damage, since it's when the plant is working hardest to fill out its fruit. Then, during the final couple weeks leading up to harvest, easing off the water slightly actually helps concentrate sugars within the fruit, improving flavor. Market growers have leaned on that exact trick for generations. So picture your watering approach in 3 phases: light and frequent early while roots establish themselves, deep and consistent through flowering and fruit development, and slightly scaled back during those final couple weeks before picking begins. A plant doesn't treat every stage of its life identically, so our watering shouldn't either. A young seedling and a plant heavy with ripening fruit have entirely different requirements, and once you start paying attention to those shifts, the plant itself starts signaling which stage it's in through how quickly the soil dries and how the foliage looks. Mistake number 10, uneven watering setups, especially long hose runs. This mistake tends to catch gardeners with larger plots off guard. You run a single long soaker hose or drip line the entire length of a row, assuming every plant along that line receives an equal share. Sounds reasonable in theory. One continuous line, one continuous flow. But water pressure weakens the further it has to travel through a hose. So with a sufficiently long run, plants nearest the spigot end up oversaturated, while plants at the far end barely receive a trickle. You can end up with root rot on one end of the row and drought stress on the other, both resulting from the very same watering session. The correction is to keep hose runs a manageable length. For a longer row, split it into shorter separate sections, or use a splitter equipped with adjustable valves so you can balance pressure and ensure every plant along the row gets its fair portion. A lot of gardeners never even think to check for this, since the hose looks the same from end to end. But the plants themselves will show you the truth if you look closely enough, thriving near the source and struggling further down the line. If any of these first 10 caught you a little off guard, now's a good time to subscribe, since there's plenty more of this kind of straightforward advice coming your way every week. And honestly, if these surprised you, brace yourself for the next one. I'd wager it applies to nearly everyone watching right now, myself included, back when I was still figuring all this out. Mistake number 11, watering on autopilot by the calendar instead of by the plant. Here we are, the one I asked you to wait for. This mistake is simply watering because it happens to be a particular day of the week, or because that's just the routine you've always followed, without ever pausing to check the plant or the soil beforehand. Tuesdays and Fridays, hot or cool, rain or shine, doesn't matter. Out comes the watering can because that's what the schedule says to do. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting anybody's being careless. This is, hands down, the single most widespread habit among gardeners at every experience level, from people who have never grown a tomato before to people who have been doing this for 3 decades. A fixed routine feels responsible. It feels dependable. Nobody wants to picture themselves as neglecting their garden, so sticking to a schedule feels like the safe, disciplined route. But the honest reality is this. The calendar has no idea whether it rained yesterday. It doesn't know whether the past week has been cool and overcast, leaving the soil barely dried out, or scorching hot, leaving your plant desperate for water hours before your scheduled time. Watering by the calendar instead of by what the plant and soil are actually communicating is really the underlying habit sitting beneath nearly every other mistake covered today. The overwatering, the uneven swings, the shallow root systems, so much of it circles back to watering according to the day rather than the actual conditions in the ground. So if you've ever watered your tomatoes simply because it was a certain day, or because that's just what you've always done, this one's speaking directly to you. There's no reason to feel bad about it either. It's the most universal habit out there, and now that you're aware of it, it's also one of the simplest to correct. Here's the correction. Before every watering session, push a finger about 2 inches down into the soil. If it's still moist, skip watering for the day. If it's dry, water deeply. Let the actual plant and soil make that decision, not whatever day it happens to be. If you're growing tomatoes in containers rather than in the ground, check even more frequently, since pots lose moisture much faster than garden soil does. During real summer heat, container tomatoes might need checking daily, occasionally even twice in one day. Once you shift from scheduling to actually checking, something shifts in you too. You stop watering out of habit and start watering out of genuine observation. You'll notice small details about your plant you never paid attention to before, how the leaves respond after a scorching afternoon, how quickly the soil near the stem dries compared to the soil at the edges. That's the point where you stop simply growing tomatoes and start truly gardening. Let's run back through it. That's a lot to take in, so let's move through all 11 quickly. Number 1, avoid watering every single day. Number 2, water deeply, not just at the surface. Number 3, skip watering during the heat of the afternoon. Number 4, water in the morning rather than the evening. Number 5, aim at the soil, never the leaves. Number 6, keep your moisture consistent, no drought followed by a flood. Number 7, don't drown the roots, always check before watering. Number 8, mulch your plants. Number 9, adjust your routine as the season progresses. Number 10, mind your hose length so every plant gets a fair share of water. And number 11, the big one, stop watering just because of what day it is. Check the plant first, every single time, no exceptions. Correct these 11 small habits, and you're looking at the finest tomatoes you've ever grown. No exaggeration involved. If today's video helped you out, do me a favor and subscribe. I put out honest, practical garden advice just like this every single week, and I genuinely love to have you along for it. Drop a comment as well. Let me know what region you're gardening in, and while you're there, tell me which of these 11 mistakes hit closest to home for you. I read through every single one. Go take an honest look at how you've been watering your own garden and correct even just a couple of these habits. I promise your tomato patch is going to thank you for the effort. Take care, and I'll see you next time.